Suddenly, the man turned into a side alley. So suddenly, in fact, his partner didn't react fast enough, and the two stumbled together, giving Liz an opportunity to make up the distance. As she reached the alley, it was just in time to see the elusive pair disappear around the next corner at a gallop. Intrigued, and still not stopping to think, Liz broke into a sprint, taking the bend only a few seconds behind them. There was no one there. Pacing forwards, she searched left and right, checking closed doorways and looking behind bins. The alley was long and narrow. No one short of an Olympic-class sprinter could have made it to the next turn in the short time the two had been out of her sight, but they were gone. She felt a cold shiver go up her spine, and very slowly she looked up. There was nothing there, other than the buildings, walls, sky, of course. As she stood, breathing hard and looking around, it suddenly struck Liz that she'd done something very stupid. She'd followed a pair of complete strangers into a dark alley. Not the smartest move, and why the hell had she done it? Because a stranger who looked oddly familiar gave her a funny look? The whole thing was just too weird. As she walked back towards the main street, Liz kept glancing over her shoulder. The man had recognised her. That much she was certain of. And that recognition had been enough to send him running. The woman had been dressed like a grandmother, but she'd certainly been able to crack on the speed. Before stepping back into the main alley, she paused and stared back down, as if the bare walls could provide some kind of clue, but there was nothing. It was a mystery, and it was likely to stay that way. "Angela, put your arm over your sister's shoulder. Peter, come on," her mother called out to Liz as she waited patiently, in her graduation gown with her older sister's arm over her shoulder. "Smile for the photo." "How about giving me a facing?" Peter exclaimed. 12 o'clock, slightly below, Liz directed. Bar her mum, who'd never got the hang of directing via clock facings. It was a system they'd all become used to using when Peter needed more direction. "Down a little more," her father directed. "That's great. Hold it." The shutter went click and her father frantically worked the wind on. "Hold it, one more, one more." Photos taken, they vacated the most scenic part of the small garden. Since nature deplores a vacuum, another proud mother immediately dragged another graduating daughter over for photographs. Liz gave them a smile of acknowledgement as, with Peter on her arm, they wandered back towards the buffet table. A quick backward glance confirmed that her mother had stopped to talk to one of her lecturers. "So, Squirt, ready to join the world of work?" her sister asked. "If you can find a lab that's hiring on the strength of a degree," Liz said, "then hey, I'm up for it." "A 2-1 isn't a basic degree," Angela objected. "It isn't a master's either." "And that's what it needs," Liz replied with a shrug. "Anyhow, I do work." "Data entry? Pah," Angela replied. "A real job has you running around like a maniac, putting up with every dipshit in Christendom." "Wow, when you put it that way, why wouldn't she want to work in retail?" Peter observed. Liz glanced back. "It's a lot of extra money. I really don't want to have to ask Mum and Dad for help." "Go for it, Squirt. If you get the chance, they'd be more upset if you don't try for the Masters," her sister advised. "Besides, they made a saving on me." "I'm not going to be moving out for another couple of years at least," Peter added. "There's also some good grants available for the blind, so don't worry about me." "Ever tempted to have another go?" Liz asked, inwardly remembering the rows that had occurred when her sister had crashed out of her first year in university after what turned out to be a year of partying and drinking instead of studying. "Maybe someday," Angela replied, "but I'll be paying for it myself. That will keep me focused and make sure it's no one's business but mine." "Well, maybe I'll go for it, or at least apply for it and see what happens." "Onwards and upwards," Peter replied with cheerful encouragement as they reached the buffet table. "Now, talk me through the food options here." It had been a long day, especially with the drive from Preston to Leeds, but with the entire family around, Dad insisted on heaving out his old projector for a slideshow. In the darkened living room, Liz half dozed as her father worked his way through the collection. There was the usual big laugh at the picture of Liz as a baby, with an utterly stunned expression on her pudgy little face. The steady click-click of the projector started to have its usual effects, and her eyes grew heavy. The picture paused on one from a family holiday in Edinburgh when Liz was 8. As she stared at it, though, through sleepy eyes, something started to tug at her, demanding her attention.